Right then, welcome back to the channel. This is 5 things that we learned watching United against Tottenham last night. In at number 1, we got to talk about Mason Mount, and we might even do a full video on this a little bit later in the week. Let me know if you'd like a full sort of analysis on Mason Mount, because I can see myself doing that just as a matter of course anyway, because I'm interested. But it's been a poor opening 2 performances from him. I think that's the kindest way you can sort of say this. There's been zero output, zero creativity. This is the dichotomy of this. He looks like he's trying too hard, but it also looks like he doesn't know the role that he's being asked to play. Doesn't know it, isn't comfortable with it. Has already started to look despondent after 2 games, which I've never seen before. There were a lot of question marks about his fit. We did some analysis where we were like, okay, there's going to be games when he's the answer, when you're trying to unlock a team that's in a low block. And obviously Tottenham don't play in a low block, and he was not the right tool for the job in that instance, in my opinion, yesterday. But who else plays? I think it's clear we don't want McTominay. Mainoo's not fit. I think there is a requirement for another number 8 to come in. Can we get that done before the end of the window? I think that's going to be massive for us. Number 2, wide deficiencies. United are actually very subpar in areas which United as a club have probably been built upon and known for, and that's wingers. I thought Anthony and Garnacho were poor Monday night against Wolves, and I wouldn't have started Garnacho. I think Anthony gets a little bit more leeway because his replacements aren't as obvious as those on the left. But I would be looking at the point the second Højlund is fit to be trying Sancho off the right and Marcus off the left. We have to do something different. The decision making from Garnacho and Anthony is horrendous. Like, they need to be getting sat down today, someone with an iPad, and showing them this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do, and it has to happen immediately. Bruno seemed to play a lot of his game out there wide. Why? I think Bruno would probably benefit from coming centrally and being alongside Casemiro. I think that could be quite beneficial for everybody. There was no directness in the wingers. There was no threat from the wingers. It was ponderous. There was no creativity from the wingers. Wingers have to be your match winners. Those are the opportunity, because modern football, I don't really like the phrase modern football. I can't think of another word that really encapsulates what I'm trying to say here. Football in its current form, which you can be construed as modern football. But football in its current form is very much about one team trying to overload the other. When you're in attack, you try to throw more players than your defence that you're up against has got. When you're defending, you try and get +1 defender than the attackers that you've got. So football is very much about the chess game of moving players around, and the players get moved around by work rate, fitness, formation, and obviously your tactics to come and try and to isolate or overload, right? That's how the game is done. In possession football, the idea is to have more players than the opposition have in certain areas of the pitch. If you play a 4-3-3, you might ask your 9 to drop in. You might ask your fullbacks to step up, so you can get 6 up against 4 or 5. That's how it's done. When you have wingers with the ability to beat a man, that changes that. Because a winger that's got a high percentage of take-on success goes 1v1 against his fullback. Now, if you freeze frame at the game as a good winger's about to take on his fullback, the rest of that defence will be +1. So let's just say in a simple 4-3-3, left winger's got the ball, My 9 will be marked by probably 2 centre-halves, and the far side fullback will be tracking the run of the far side winger. They are +1. If my number 10 follows into the box, the opposition 6 will follow him into the box. The defence is still +1. Now, what happens when the winger beats his man? They're no longer +1 because that fullback that's just been beat is taken out of the game. That centre-half needs to go across. That leaves my 10 1v1, my 9 1v1, and my far side winger 1v1. Wingers are one of the only places on the pitch. You are seeing it more in central midfield as well, which I love, by the way. One of the reasons I love variety. What you're seeing in the centre of the pitch and in the wide areas especially is people have the ability to run at someone, beat them, and change the dynamic of the game. And if your wingers aren't doing that, why are they there? They're not the best passers of the ball generally. They're not there to do that. They're not there to just recycle possession. When the ball arrives at your winger, we want them to attack. We want them to be direct. We want them to beat their man. Now, this is where decision-making comes in because the opposition knows this. So sometimes you'll see them double up their wide, say, right-sided midfielder with their right back, which means one of them can still get beat and the other one is still there to take care of it, meaning the rest of the line is +1. That's the whole idea of what everybody's trying to achieve, is everyone's trying to get that numerical advantage. You can do it through passing, through shapes, through off-the-ball movement. You can do it through running at people. But wingers have to be able to beat their man, to force things happen. They are the match winners in football. And if your match winners aren't winning your matches, what are they doing? And we've got some good wingers, but they're not playing well and they're not playing consistent. And arguably our best one is not playing as a winger at the moment. So whatever it is that's up with Højlund, it needs fixing immediately. Number 3, central crisis. As I said at the top of the show, talking about Mount, we analysed and looked at loads of different ways that this midfield might work with Bruno, Mount and Casemiro. The likes of Luton at home was mentioned. Go into the likes of, we didn't mention Spurs, but like go into your rivals away from home, certainly ones that are going to want the ball. That's not the team you play. So for Bruno and Mount to work as a pairing, whether that's as a 2 or a 2 with one of them being higher up, you're going to need the ball. Hence why the Old Trafford games, that makes sense. Away from home, you do have to be more combative. And I was hoping Ten Hag had learnt from the poor performances on the road that we had last season. Going off the evidence of yesterday, that's not been the case. Basuma and Maddison completely ran over Casemiro, just doubled up on him. We need reinforcements in that area. We were just outnumbered. You can't go anywhere in football without a sufficient engine room, and half of the games we're going to be playing will be against top 10 opposition. And arguably a bit more of that in the Champions League will be against better opposition. So United need to have a plan for dealing with that. And I would also say on that, Casemiro doesn't look fit to me at the moment. We're asking a guy that doesn't look like he's in match fitness or good match fitness to do the job of 2 people. Of course it's not going to work. Number 4, Onana hung out to dry. There was some absolute world-class stuff, I thought, from Onana, with and without the ball. Really commanding. I think it's hard for a keeper to succeed in a system that exposes him to so many opportunities against him. United were far too open defensively. We really didn't help him. I don't think he was a problem for any of the goals. But United seemed to have fixed one problem with him. Some of the passes that he were playing. Like there's professional Manchester United footballers that were on the pitch that don't have the range that our goalkeeper has got. And he will do something with the ball for United. But like I spoke about this a little bit last night, but also in the preview. Spurs were going to hold the ball, and Spurs' line is so high, but how many times did you see United getting behind it yesterday? All United's chances came with a back four in position on the edge of the box or inside the box. Where was our transitional threat yesterday? That's the confusing thing for me, because when I looked at what Spurs play like, and I looked at United are going to play with Anthony, Rashford and Garnacho, you're like, right, okay, I understand this means that we're going to be looking for a certain thing, and we didn't do that thing. Why? Why didn't we do that thing? And finally, there's a chance the gap is widening. City look extremely good at the moment, haven't conceded a goal this season. Arsenal don't play their second game till tomorrow night. The teams around us are improving. Liverpool are scratching results despite diving all over the show. Brighton and Newcastle are in the ascendancy. Brighton have just sold off their team and don't look like they've skipped a beat. I mean, who's doing their scouting and recruitment? Oh my God. You can't underestimate the importance of transfer windows and pre-seasons. And I know we took a while to get going last season. You might end up having good seasons, but you're never going to compete for the league if you take the first 2 games off every year. I think Sir Alex Ferguson spoke about this post Mourinho, and he said, we used to be able to just say, look, be in and around at Christmas and we'll kick on in the second half of the season and we'll win the league. That was what he wanted. But that's changed now, because the margin for error, because the bottom half of the table is no longer as competitive compared to the top half of the table as it once was. It gets easier for the teams at the top to win, but it requires more points from the teams at the top to win, because the teams at the top on the whole take more points on average than the teams at the bottom, which means that you start dropping points in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 of the season, and you're already off the pace, and it's going to be very, very difficult to catch up, because the runs that teams are going on now are mental. You used to be able to lose 6 games and win the title. That was a thing. You could lose 6 matches, which means you're going to draw a similar sort of number, and then you could still win the league. Gone are those days. These mistakes now, you almost have to be flawless to have a chance. And you can't keep taking 2 games off at the start of the season to ease yourself into it. Mourinho's Chelsea, 2004, 2005, they hit the ground hard and went on runs straight off the bat. And United had to adapt to start catching them up. So, there's learnings to be had, hopefully. You got to put them right. Starts with Forest next week. 3 points. Big performance. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.